Welcome to Comment with me, George Galloway, here on Press TV, still the voice of the voiceless. This is the real leaders' debate. At least it can be if you join in. But above all, for that, I need your telephone calls. You ring us, we'll ring you back. Establish a clear line, and remember, if you get on the television with me, the volume on your television has to be down at 0. The number to call is 44-208-601-4555. You can SMS the show also, 447800008066, or you can email me, comment@presstv.co.uk. This being the 21st century, you can even send me a tweet at comment_presstv. All of the aforementioned will come up here on the comment wall. Tonight, we're discussing the breakthrough at the talks in Switzerland between the Islamic Republic of Iran and the permanent 5 members of the United Nations Security Council, plus the European Union. It is an historic breakthrough, and there are some already who are so jaundiced and sick at the fact that an agreement has been reached that they are even now throwing mud at it. But the deal is the deal, and I'll be going through in the course of the next hour or so exactly what that deal means for the world and for Iran. Israel tried everything that it could to sabotage these negotiations, even to the point of dangerously damaging their own relations with the United States of America, upon which they absolutely defend. You'll recall that Netanyahu went to the United States Congress to spit in the face of the United States President, and the right-wing Republicans have been dancing a grisly duet with Netanyahu over this matter. But it's the President of the United States who makes foreign policy, who makes foreign treaties, and this one has the support of the world. Just a reminder of who the permanent 5 are: the United States, Russia, China, Britain, and France, plus the European Union. That's quite a lot to have on your side, and I think that Netanyahu and the US Republicans now look rather foolish and are going to be left crying into their desserts this evening. So they got their just desserts. A deal was reached. Iran has pulled through a period of extreme economic sanction and political ostracization. We here at Press TV are just one of the minor victims of that. The reason you, if you're in Britain, are watching this on your computer is because we were taken off the Sky platform by Ofcom, acting on instruction from the British government. It was a clear, brazen political act. All these sanctions are now going to be lifted. Banking sanctions, trading sanctions, media sanctions. So, who knows? I may be coming back to a television set near you sometime soon. Iran has not backed down. It has preserved its vital national interests, as the leadership of Iran always said that they would. For those who didn't believe them, here are the highlights of the decision. The European Union's Foreign Policy Chief Federica Mogherini and Iran's Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif took part in a joint press conference in the Swiss city of Lausanne on Thursday. The European Union's Foreign Policy Chief Federica Mogherini and Zarif took part in that conference. Iran and the permanent 5+1 group of world powers have adopted a joint statement after marathon talks in the Swiss city of Lausanne, calling, among other things, for the removal of the United Nations Security Council resolutions and sanctions against the Islamic Republic. The statement was read out at that joint press conference. In the framework of the agreement, none of Iran's nuclear facilities, as well as its previous activities, will be stopped, shut down, or suspended. Iran's nuclear activities in all its nuclear facilities, including Natanz, Fordow, Isfahan and Iraq will continue. These comprehensive solutions will guarantee the continued enrichment program inside Iranian territory, and according to this, Iran will be allowed to go on with industrial production of nuclear fuel, which is meant for running its nuclear power plants. According to the solutions, the joint plan of action for the enrichment program will cover a 10-year period, during which more than 5,000 centrifuge machines will continue producing enriched material at Natanz facility up to the level of 3.67%. Extra machines and the related infrastructure in the facility will be collected by the IAEA in order to be replaced by new machines consistent with the allowed standards. Accordingly, Iran will be allowed to allocate the current stockpile of enriched materials for the purpose of producing nuclear fuel or swapping it with uranium in the international markets. Iran will continue research and development program on advanced centrifuge machines and will also be able to keep initiating and completing its research and development program on IR4, IR5, IR6 and IR8 machines during the 10-year period of the agreement. For the Fordow facility, according to the joint statement, Fordow nuclear facility will be turned into a research centre for nuclear science and physics. More than 1,000 centrifuges will be maintained at this facility, and 2 centrifuge cascades will keep operating. In cooperation with the P5+1 countries, about half of the Fordow facility will be dedicated to advanced nuclear research and production of stable isotopes, which have important applications in industry, agriculture and medicine. As for the Arak heavy water reactor, according to the statement, the heavy water reactor in the Iranian city of Arak will remain in place, but will be redesigned and updated. The redesigning process will greatly increase efficiency of the reactor while reducing the amount of plutonium produced in the facility. The redesigning process will be done according to defined schedule as an international project with the cooperation of Iran. Production of fuel for the Arak reactor and awarding international nuclear fuel production certificate will be among the international cooperation to be offered to Iran. So whether you follow the physics of that or not, what is clear is that this is a momentous political breakthrough. Iran has been sanctioned, quarantined, ostracized, and regularly threatened with war. Regularly threatened with war, especially from the only power in the region which has nuclear weapons, namely what they call Israel. But they've pulled through. They stood firm, they stood strong, they stood tall, and they have emerged victorious with an agreement with the world. The world minus Israel, but that may be a growing problem for Israel rather than for Iran. So, I'm a happy man tonight. He's a happy man tonight. Are you happy? Tell me your reaction to the joint statement that has just been released. The other subject that we're dealing with tonight is, of course, what's happening in Yemen. I put it this way: who is calling for the bombing of the Muslims and the Arabs? In Palestine, of course, we're used to almost every day casualties falling in the occupied, in the annexed, in the besieged Palestinian territories. But now we have it in Yemen. It is of great, indeed momentous, world consequences, what is happening now. Who is doing the bombing? Well, that's easy. Saudi Arabia. Who is planning the bombing? By its own admission. Who has the command and control cell which is in charge of the bombing? By their own admission, the United States of America. Now, as a coalition, that's not that surprising. Saudi Arabia and the United States are allies for the best part now of a century, certainly 75 years or so. But who else is in that coalition? Israel is in that coalition. Israel has openly declared its willingness to cooperate with the group of countries around Saudi Arabia in its war against the people of Yemen. That too is not all that surprising. But when you throw in ISIS, when you throw in Al-Qaeda in the Arabic Peninsula, you begin to see a coalition so grotesque, so ugly, that it's difficult to see how anyone can take it seriously. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Saudi Arabia, the United States of America, and Israel are all together in a coalition attacking Yemen, one of the very poorest countries in the world. And the consequences are absolutely devastating for civilian people. But of course, they will not alter the course of the conflict in Yemen. Just in the last 2 hours, the presidential palace in Aden, in the south of the country, on the coast, on the Gulf Coast, has fallen to the Revolutionary Army. Who are the Revolutionary Army? This is something I'm going to have to deal with again, as I tried to do last week, but some people simply refuse to see the truth. Some people are ready to fall for the falsehood that this is a Sunni-Shia conflict, that this is a war between Iran and Saudi Arabia, with Yemen just an unfortunate proximate cause. But none of that is true. First of all, the Houthis, who are undoubtedly a very powerful military insurgency, are a part of Yemen. They're not Iranians. They weren't sent there by Iran. They are Yemenis. They have lived there for thousands of years. The Houthis are not fighting this conflict alone. If they were, they wouldn't be winning, powerful as they are. This is an alliance of the Houthi fighters and the military regiments, divisions, loyal to the former president of Yemen, Ali Abdullah Saleh, who's not only not an Iranian, who's not only not an Iranian proxy, he's living in Saudi Arabia. He fled to Saudi Arabia when he was overthrown. He is a long-term ally of Saudi Arabia and the United States of America. He's not an Iranian. He's not a Shiite. He's not a proxy. He's a deposed president who wants to come back. Now, I actually don't care whether Ali Abdullah Saleh is the president of Yemen, or whether Hadi, who's now also fled to Saudi Arabia, is the president of Yemen. It's nothing to do with me. It's a matter entirely for the Yemeni people. But I do take a very firm view on this. Interfering in other people's civil wars is never, ever, ever a good idea, because you don't even know what you are doing, and you certainly don't know who you are bombing. For example, the Saudis have just destroyed the Russian embassy in Aden. That's not a very wise move, you know. Russia's likely to be quite cross about that. I don't know about you, but I don't have the highest of admiration for the military leadership of whoever is the king, whoever is the crown prince from amongst the Al Saud family these days. I wouldn't send them out to buy a loaf of bread. Never mind target the billions of pounds worth of military hardware that they bought from British and American arms dealers over the years, over the decades. I wouldn't send them to buy a loaf, would you? But they are now in charge of a raging war in the Persian Gulf, which is filled with enormous consequence, which can drag the entire region into all-out war. Saudi Arabia has spent $90 billion on weapons provided by the US alone. The US is praising their use. Of course they would, wouldn't they? Because they want to sell them some more. Jamshed's on the line in Paris, on the nuclear question. Jamshed, welcome to the show. Go ahead.
I would start to buy a loaf of bread. Never mind target
I think we've lost that call from Paris. Unless it comes back very quickly, we'll have to press on and try and get back to Jamshed. We are talking not just about the Yemen, but about this extraordinary news from Lausanne, the breakthrough in the nuclear talks, and Jamshed wants to talk about those. Jamshed, welcome. Yeah, but I've got you, but only very faintly, Jamshed. No, that's not going to work. Okay, let me continue. The Lausanne talks between the permanent 5+1, that is the 5 members of the Security Council plus the EU. So basically, the great majority of the world's population is in that P5+1 formula. And they've reached an agreement with Iran. It's a good agreement. I don't know all the nuclear physics of it, but it's a good agreement. It preserves Iran's rights, and it deals with the concerns that are widely held across the world, that we want to stop the proliferation of nuclear weapons. It's a good agreement. Israel will now try to undermine and, if possible, destroy it. We mustn't let them. Bakir is in Copenhagen. He's on the line. Bakir, welcome.
Good evening, George, and salam alaikum to you. First of all, I would like to congratulate to Iran and all those who have been supporting the deal with Iran and the P5+1. Turning to Yemen, George, which is I would talk about, is last week this coward president, Mr. Hadi, who actually, by the way, was elected in a one-man show. Couldn't be more
yes, he was unopposed in the election for president. But anyway, Bakir, I don't take that seriously in any case. Saudi Arabia helped to overthrow the elected president of Egypt after just 1 year in office. So the idea that they can be bombing Yemen to reinstate the elected president of Yemen is simply absurd.
Indeed it is. Indeed it is.
So go ahead. Hadi is calling for foreigners to bomb his own country.
Hadi, he doesn't even want his country to be stable. He just wants to get into power so he can, he and Riyadh, they can have this relation together without having what's best for Yemen, like Houthis are doing, which is actually a popular movement for the Yemeni people.
What's going to happen now, Bakir? Are you Yemeni?
No, I'm not a Yemeni. I'm actually from Denmark and with the origin of Pakistani.
Okay.
But I hope the best for what the Yemenis got, and I'm sure that the Houthi militias will not give up.
Amen. Bakir, thanks for that in Copenhagen. Jamshed's back on the line from Paris. Let's take that. Jamshed, go ahead on the nuclear question.
Yes.
Yes, go on, sir.
Okay. The idea that they can be bombing Yemen to reinstate the elected president.
Jamshed, your TV has to be down at 0 because I just heard myself from a few minutes ago. I'm going to have to drop you, Jamshed, not just because of the telephone line, but because you disobeyed the basic rule. Don't phone me with your volume up on your television. Let's hear from Farida. Always a pleasure to do so. Go ahead, Farida.
Good evening, George.
Good evening to you. What's your view?
My views on the nuclear treaty are very ambivalent, I'm afraid.
Okay.
One part of me is rejoicing at the fact that diplomacy does work, and hopefully it's going to give Iran the breathing space that we need, and for the nuclear energy programs at least to go ahead. And with the sanctions being lifted, the lot of the ordinary Iranian person would probably benefit from it. But on the other hand, George, my blood is boiling. The so-called P5+1 are all nuclear nations.
Yes, that's why they are the P5.
Yeah, and what I cannot stomach is how dare these 5 so-called superpowers
Good point.
tell us that we may not have a nuclear bomb.
Well, let me stop you for a moment. I'll let you back in.
Okay.
Farida, Iran doesn't want a nuclear bomb, so nobody's stopping it from having a nuclear bomb. Iran has declared these last 30+ years that it doesn't believe in nuclear weapons. It doesn't believe in weapons of mass destruction. It doesn't have them, doesn't want them, will not build them. So nobody's stopping Iran from doing that. Iran, in my opinion, should have built a nuclear bomb, because if Israel has 220 nuclear bombs, Iran has the right to defend itself against Israel. But I'm not running Iran. Iran does not have a nuclear bomb. And therefore, the P5's hypocrisy is clear, you're right, but they're not actually stopping Iran doing anything because Iran doesn't want to do it. Go ahead, Farida.
I beg to differ.
Tell me.
Why do you call Iran's nuclear power as a destructive power? Why cannot you use the term deterrent? Because the minute you say it's a nuclear bomb, in the hands of the Muslims, it is a power of destruction. But in the West, it is called a deterrent. Why can't we use exactly the same terminology and say Iran has every right to have a nuclear bomb as a deterrent? That's what I can't get my head around.
Well, I don't disagree with you, and if you and I were running Iran together, no doubt that's what we'd do. But neither of us is, and those who are running Iran have made it clear they don't want a nuclear bomb, neither as a deterrent or as anything else. So they haven't lost anything, Farida, as a result of this deal. Trust me on this, sister. I would not appear before you in front of this camera and praise an agreement that I didn't think was a good agreement. I believe this is a good agreement. It's good for Iran, it's good for the world, it's good for diplomacy as a means of solving problems without war and without bloodshed. Farida, until next time, thanks very much. Lamine is in Leeds in England. Lamine, what's your reaction? Lamine? Unfortunately, we've lost Lamine. That would have been good to hear from Leeds, my own stamping ground, or of course Bradford. Leeds is a suburb of Bradford, my constituency, and I'll be driving back up the motorway right after this show. We're talking about the breakthrough in Lausanne. Farida was just on. She's in two minds. She's ambivalent, as she put it, and she's a highly intelligent and committed woman. So obviously out there is some ambivalence, there is some reluctance to accept the deal that has been done. And I want to hear from you on that. And we're talking about the Yemen, where hundreds of innocent civilians, again, mainly women and children, have been massacred in the US-Saudi war that has been launched against Yemen, with the support of ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and Israel. You really couldn't make that up. So, I've got to take a short news bulletin break, just 3 minutes, and God willing, I'll still be here when you come back. There's much more here on comment on both of these issues. So please, don't go anywhere. Don't go away. It's George Galloway on comment on Press TV, still the voice of the voiceless. You're watching Comment with me, George Galloway, here on Press TV, still the voice of the voiceless. Tonight we're discussing the nuclear breakthrough in Lausanne between Iran and the Permanent 5+1, an agreement which brings to an end the danger of war and brings to an end the era of sanctions. And who knows what it will mean for Press TV and this show. And we're talking about the catastrophe in Yemen, where the Saudi-American war machine has launched a blitzkrieg against the poor and virtually defenseless civilian population of Yemen, and a fat lot of good it's doing. On the battlefield, the revolutionary forces are routing the ousted President Hadi, who has fled to Saudi Arabia, and none of this bombing is going to change the course of that war. All it's going to do is murder a very large number of civilian people. But I'm looking in particular at the breadth of the coalition of the killing, stretching from ISIS to Israel. You couldn't make it up. Let's see what John in France thinks of the nuclear deal. John, welcome.
All I've really got to say is that I'm under the impression that Iran was trying to make atomic energy, and they have not said that they're doing anything other than making atomic energy.
That's right.
There has been, before they've done anything, including they haven't made the atomic energy yet, they're accusing them of doing this, that, and the other, making weapons and so forth. Yeah. Well, this could be an absolute load of nonsense, or it could be the truth. One doesn't know until such times as they made their weapon, they made their atomic energy, and then they continue to do things that can only mean that they're making an atomic weapon.
That's right.
But they don't want to wait for that because they're too eager to start sanctions against the country because it suits their book for whatever reason. Yeah. And to me, this is wrong to buggery. Sorry about that word. That's number one. As far as the other thing in Yemen is concerned, they will bomb anybody that they want to bomb. And yet, if other people, their enemies, if you want to call it that, bomb people, they scream the place down.
Well, imagine if Russia was bombing Kiev in the way that the Saudi-American coalition are bombing Sana'a, the capital of Yemen. Can you imagine?
The mind boggles. In short, it's a load of absolute. It's a load of absolute rubbish, and if people would just stop for a minute and think fairly with their minds and their logic and their reason rather than with their emotions, which unfortunately the majority of the world does with their emotions. That's why we're in the trouble we're in.
Indeed. John, thanks for the call. Let me press on to the United States, to Virginia, where Abdul wants to give us our first American reaction to the deal that has been reached in Lausanne. Abdul, welcome.
George, I just want to say I'm a huge fan, been watching your show for forever.
Thank you, sir.
No problem. I actually want to talk about the how interesting the problem in Yemen is right now, and I want to say that it's very appalling to the Arab world that Saudi and much of the Arab world is backing Saudi Arabia in attacking Yemen when they really should be focused on the extremist groups like ISIS. The problem here is that in my opinion, this is very much a political conflict. It's very people confuse this with like a religious sectarian battle. It's really not, because when you look at Yemen, you see that there's branches of Yemeni military that are largely Sunni, and they're fighting alongside the Houthis.
Yeah. Last week I took a lot of time to try to point these things out, Abdul, and I only returned to it this week because a lot of people still don't actually know the truth, or they don't want to know the truth. The military units loyal to Ali Abdullah Saleh are mainly Sunni soldiers. and they are fighting alongside the Houthis to overthrow the guy who's just fled to Saudi Arabia. But you make the point, and you're right, you'd think they'd have their hands full with ISIS and Al-Qaeda, but what about the Palestinians? They were being massacred last summer in Gaza, and none of these Arab countries were able, they told us, to lift a finger to help them.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think I've seen many of your shows, and I completely agree when you say that the Arab region is completely divided, and we need to be more united. Yeah. And this is the problem. This is why we're weak. What really interests me is that many of my friends and many of my colleagues from the Gulf are now very, I'm shocked that they're shocked that this is, oh my God, like this is such a huge issue in Yemen. And it's as if Palestine has been in the shade throughout all these years, and they've never really noticed what's been going on in Palestine. I sort of want to understand where these people have been. Have they been living under a rock for the past couple of years? You know, we had that one glimpse, I think you remember it was a few months ago where Palestine was finally trending, and people were finally seeing when Israel had attacked Gaza. And it was finally trending because the first time in a long time people were more aware of the fascist apartheid going on between Palestine and Israel right now. And I absolutely agree with you. I think you can't be any more right with your
Well,
view.
Thank you, brother. In Virginia, the USA, thank you very much for that. One of our viewers thought that these were pictures of Gaza that we were showing there, but they are pictures of Yemen. They are Yemenis, Arabs, Muslims being murdered and mutilated by an Arab Muslim Air Force. At least that's what they'd call themselves. Now, Mandel is in Leeds. It's always worth hearing from him. Mandel, go ahead.
Hello, hi there, George Galloway.
Yes.
Just before I speak about Iran, I just want to say a couple of words really quickly, if that's okay, George.
Yes, go on.
So I met you before in Leeds and in Manchester, actually, when the bombs were raining down on Gaza. And it was at that time that the world had no idea of the power and might that Saudi Arabia had. Certainly not the slaughtered children on the beaches. Now, I came to you with my uncle. Now, my uncle at the time had advanced cancer, and he had tubes attached left, right, and center to his stomach. He was barely strong enough to get out of the car. Now, he was only 57 years old, but he insisted to come and see you. He insisted on hearing you speak. So that's the effect, George, that you have on people across the globe.
MashaAllah.
I just want you to never, ever give up.
No, I never will, and I'm very touched, Mandel, by that story. I think what it tells us is that although the media tries to persuade us that we are isolated and alone, that we are either bad or mad, and certainly very few people agree with us, the reality is very different. And now we can reach out to each other through stations like Press TV, outside of the prism, I said prism, not prison, of the British broadcasting laws. We can bypass the right-wing newspapers owned by billionaires who are invariably hostile on virtually every matter against us. We can link hands, we can exchange information, we can learn from each other without recourse to our enemies. And that's what's driving them crazy, because we're still here, we're still standing. What we say, we mean, and we mean what we say. Mandel, please give your uncle, if he's still with us, and I hope that he is, give him my warmest affection, and thank you for that beautiful call. That was Mandel in Leeds. Here's Al Mabruk in Toronto, in Canada. Go ahead, sir, go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Galloway.
And to you, sir.
Never think that you are isolated or your program isolated, because I am from Egypt originally. I am a lawyer from Egypt with master's degree in law, and I still have to wait for your program to see what you are going to say about some event, to see the truth behind it. So there is lots of people waiting for you to see what you are going to say.
Subhanallah. Thank you.
Point. And actually, I meant to say to you before that in the old days, when I was young in Egypt, we used to say, like, the English is bad, or the Egyptian is good, and so on. Today, we cannot say that. You are a life example. You are a British man, right from the heart of England, and you are doing good to this area and to these poor people in the Middle East more than lots of people in the area themselves. You have to know that.
It's very kind of you to say so. I should, for the record, say that I'm Scottish rather than English, but I take your point entirely. We discover in life that many of our own people are bad, and many of our own people are good, and many of the other peoples of the world are good, and many of them are bad. When I started out with the Arabs in 1975, I knew that I would be facing rich and powerful enemies who would try to harm me. I just didn't know that most of them would be Arabs. Go ahead, Mabruk.
Well, my second point is, and that's it has to do with the idea of religion.
Yes.
When I was young, I have been in Canada for 42 years, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
I have to move to Canada because in Egypt, when I was young and I wanted to get married, I wanted an apartment, and I wanted to go on life, it was hard. It was getting very expensive for us.
Of course. And Toronto is a very fine place. I've spoken in Toronto many times.
Thank you very much. And then I sought for immigration, and I came into Canada. Now, when I came into Canada this time, it was easier. Obviously, today it's not as easy and it's harder. But back to the idea of religion. When I was a kid in Egypt, we never asked anybody what your religion is, because it was against the politeness and the etiquette or protocol of our life at the time. Egypt was a very civil society. It was a socialist country at the time under Abdel Nasser, and we have a very good life at the time. Now, today, everybody asks what your religion is. I hope that one day we'll grow out of these narrow-minded ideas, because all of us, we are the same. We should put these things behind, and we should look that some of us is maybe lucky that are rich or they have easy life, some of us not, but we have to forget about it, because what we see today, religion causing more harm than good.
Well, I don't think it's the religion that's causing it, brother. I think it's those whose interpretation of religion is so grotesque, it's difficult even to imagine it. The people who murdered at least 147 Kenyan students overnight, and who singled out the Christians amongst them so they could murder them, it's so beyond belief that it's difficult to imagine the thought process in the minds of those who did it and those who planned it. But we can't blame Islam for that any more than we can blame Jesus for the crimes of the Crusades, the crimes of Adolf Hitler, Mussolini, and so on. But it's been great talking to you, and I hope you'll call regularly from Toronto, where I have many friends. Thanks for that call. Mir Bahman is in Iran. Better hear from there. Mir, go ahead.
Galloway.
Yes, you're on the air. Go on.
How about you?
By the grace of God, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the time that you gave to me. I want to talk about the Saudi invasion to the Yemeni people. I believe that the Saudi invasion to the Yemeni people is because of the fear of the spreading the true Islam in the region. And They don't believe in Islam. They don't believe in true Islam, and they are they're going to fight the true Islam that is spreading in the region. And our Imam Khomeini has taught us that we have two kinds of Islam: the American Islam and the true Islam. The American Islam is spreading the terrorism and fighting with the true Islam, and they're going to, meet the benefits of the America.
Saudi America, I first heard that appellation in 1977 in Lebanon from one of President Arafat's spokespeople. I just forget momentarily his name. But it was the first time I'd heard Saudi Arabia described as Saudi America. Amar is in Toronto, that great city that we've just been talking with. Let's hear from him. Amar, go ahead. Wa alaikum salam. Nice to hear from you.
Nice to hear. Just want to comment regarding whatever is going on in Yemen and who is responsible for it.
Yeah.
I think whoever gives military aid to Egypt and their allies and who is selling arms to the Saudis, he's the one that is responsible.
Yes, undoubtedly.
And because since those who are coming against their government and the misuse of their resources, and they want to put the right people to lead their government for the sake of their citizens, and those who supply arms and controlling the resources of Yemen, they don't want it. And we know, you know that, you know more than I do about Saudi in Yemen. They have a long history.
They have a very long history, and it's a very bad one. Amar, Saudi Arabia is the richest country in the world, and Yemen is the poorest, and they are next door neighbors. And a very significant number of the Saudi armed forces are Yemenis. Yemen has received nothing from Saudi Arabia, and Yemenis are treated as dogs in Saudi Arabia. When Yemen voted against the Iraq war, Saudi Arabia was one of the weapons that was used to diminish and humiliate and starve the people of Yemen. And now they are bombing and killing the people of Yemen. In the name of democracy, imagine, in the name of the right of the president to remain in power because he was elected. You couldn't make this up, Amar. And the Saudi-American war on Yemen will, in my opinion, if it turns into a ground war, will bring about the end of the dictatorship in Saudi Arabia. It will bring about the end of the tyranny in Saudi Arabia. Of that I am sure, because the Yemeni people are the toughest, hardest, and best fighters in the Arab world. The Yemenis are pure people. Their Arabic language is pure Arabic. It is the most beautiful of the Arabic countries. It has retained a simplicity and an ancient and true Arabic character. Yemen is a jewel, and these people presiding over the sink of corruption in Riyadh, who have started something now, but they will not be able to finish it. I believe that the end times are coming, at least for the kleptocracy that calls itself the royal family in Saudi Arabia. Amar, great call, thanks. Vahid is in Iran. Let's hear from him before the end. Vahid, what do you think on the nuclear question?
Hello, George.
Yes, go ahead.
I think the agreement between Iran and P5+1 is not fair. You know, the amount of enrichment is too low, and I think after this, even if an agreement is reached, the next government of the United States is going to go back on it. This is obvious. This is obvious, I think.
No, they won't be able to.
Of course,
they won't be able to, Vahid. They won't be able to, because this is a deal with the permanent 5, and the other 4 will not allow them to go back on it. They can have their unilateral sanctions if they like. Iran has no need of the United States of America if it has normal relations with the rest of the world, but not with Israel and the United States of America. Well, America is the loser, not Iran. I want to squeeze one last call in, because it's a woman, Zainab in Nigeria. Zainab, go ahead, please.
Good evening, George.
Good evening, go ahead.
I would like to say it's a pleasure speaking to you. I've tried countless of times to connect with the studio, but I always fail. I don't know why that is. But
well, we're very happy that you're on now. Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to speak on both topics, please, on Yemen and on Iran. And you've spoken about the deal, and you believe that it's a nice deal, and logically it's nice, but my gut is saying that, you know, we can't trust these Americans. They've tried countless of times, they've made promises, and they've always failed. But I believe the Iranians are not stupid, and they've gone into this deal with open mind and with mutual respect, and I'm glad that at least we can have a general framework for a long-term deal. On Yemen, I don't believe, or I can't understand why anyone in the world would believe that Saudi Arabia, an autocratic state, the only state in this world where women are not allowed to drive, has the audacity to enter into Yemen by force, claiming to want to return democracy to the people of Yemen. I don't know who they're bombing right now, whether those people are not Yemenis, and after they bombed and killed them, who are the people that they're going to go and save there in Yemen? I don't know where the planes were, where the bombs were when Israel was busy. I can't find the right words.
No, you did find the. No, you did. No, you did find the right words. You did. Your words were powerful and beautiful. That's the long and the short of it. I'm asking those out there who like to think of themselves as real Muslims, as real Sunni Muslims, do you really believe that these tyrants in Saudi Arabia are capable of doing any good thing? Did you see what happened in Gaza last summer? Do you know who helped the people in Gaza? Who gave them the weapons with which they could defend themselves? Do you know who ignored them, abandoned them, cared nothing for them? Don't even deliver the miserable money, blood money, that they promise after the killing has finished. Can you believe it? Not even 5% of the money they pledged to rebuild Gaza, not even 5% has been given by the people now ready to spend billions destroying another Arab country, destroying more Arab children, while the Arab children in Gaza continue to bleed. Continue this discussion on Twitter. It's been marvelous.
Hello, just comment your name and a Facebook on that number, and just make sure that your television volume's set to 0. So 0. Can you spell your name for me? Yeah, I know. You'll be directly put through. Just leave your phone number and then we'll call you back.